Welcome to Azure Cloud Security channel. Today we're cracking the code on one of the most critical and honestly one of the most overlooked areas in all of cloud security. And that is permissions. So let's just dive right in, because understanding who has access to what in your cloud has never been more important. And here's why it's so critical. I mean, just look at this number. Recent studies show that an insane 99% of all recent cloud breaches involved insecure identities. Yeah, you heard that right. It's not just about firewalls anymore. The real fight, the place where breaches are actually happening, is all about identity and access. That brings us to the big question, right? You think you know who has the keys to your cloud kingdom, but in this super dynamic, complex world of cloud computing, the real answer is often a surprise. And trust me, it's usually not a good one. This is exactly the problem we're going to tackle today. Okay, so this all kicks off with what I like to call the cloud's identity crisis. And this isn't some one-off bug or a single vulnerability. No, this is a deep systemic issue that just grows quietly in the background. Let's meet the main villain in our story. We call it permission sprawl. Basically, it's what happens when all your identities, and we're talking users, apps, service accounts, you name it, just start collecting permissions like souvenirs. That temporary admin role someone needed, it becomes permanent. The developer who got access to a production database for one little fix, they never lose it. And what you end up with is this huge, messy, hidden attack surface that's just waiting for one single password to get phished. So how do we fight this thing? How do we untangle that web? Well, every good story needs a hero, right? And in this one, our hero is called CIEM. What is CIEM? It stands for Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management. And look, its main mission, its whole reason for being, is to enforce what we call the principle of least privilege. It's all about making sure every single identity has only the absolute bare minimum access it needs to do its job and nothing more. Okay, so you might be wondering, don't we already have CIEM for this? And that's a great question. Think of CIEM as the next evolution of traditional identity and access management. See, CIEM is great at authentication. It asks, who are you? But CIEM takes that critical next step. It focuses on authorization. It asks, okay, you're in. Now, what can you actually do? It's the difference between the bouncer checking your ID at the front door and a security detail that actually follows you around to make sure you're not snooping in rooms you have no business being in.
So, what is in the CIEM toolbox? Well, first, it gives you the single pane of glass, the one view across all your clouds, AWS, Azure, GCP, the whole shebang. And it's not a one and done scan. It's always on, continuously analyzing permissions for any kind of risk.
But it doesn't just find problems. It actually gives you step-by-step instructions on how to fix them, all with the goal of enforcing a least privilege and spotting potential attack paths before the bad guys do. All right, so we know the concept of CIEM. Now let's get practical and talk about a real-world tool that does this. We're going to look at Microsoft's integrated solution, which you'll find inside of Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So Defender for Cloud is what the industry calls
a CNAPP.
It's a bit of a mouthful. It stands for Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. But really, you can just think of it as mission control for all your cloud security. And here's the really important part. CIEM isn't some separate thing you have to buy and bolt on anymore. Microsoft baked it right into its cloud security posture management plan. which is the part of Defender that's always scanning for risks. So how did we get here? Well, this all kicked off back in 2021 when Microsoft made a really smart move and acquired a top CIEM company called CloudKnox. For a little while, you might have known this as a standalone product called Microsoft Entra Permissions Management, or EPM. But now the standalone EPM product is being retired. Don't panic, because Defender for Cloud will still provide some level of visibility, and with time, many new awesome CIEM features are being folded directly into Defender for Cloud. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Let's get into the how. How does this actually work in the real world to crush risk? Let's walk through the workflow. It really comes down to this simple but powerful continuous cycle. First, discover. The system maps out every single identity you have across all your clouds. Second, analyze. It looks for all the risky stuff. Who's overprivileged? Who has permissions they never ever use? Third, remediate. This is where you fix things and right-size those permissions. And finally, monitor. It keeps an eye out for anything weird and alerts you. And remember, this isn't a project with an end date. It's a continuous loop. You're always doing this. And one of the main things you're hunting for in this cycle are what we call super identities. These are the accounts that have the keys to the kingdom with access they definitely don't need. You know the story. A DevOps engineer gets owner on an entire subscription for a quick task. But whoops, nobody ever took it away. CIEM is built to hunt down exactly these kinds of risks. So just take a second and really think about it. How many of those ticking time bombs, those forgotten keys, those overprivileged accounts are lurking in your environment right now? Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about it, isn't it? But here's the good news. The tool doesn't just point out the fire and it hands you the fire extinguisher. It gives you these super concrete, actionable recommendations. It won't just say, you have an inactive identity. It'll say, hey, this user account hasn't been used in 90 days, delete it. Or this user has contributor, but they've only ever used the read permissions. Let's downgrade them. Or even, this AWS user has console access, but no MFA. Go turn it on. It's super specific, super actionable stuff. Okay, so we've been in the weeds a bit. Let's pull back up to 30,000 feet. Why does all this really matter? Why should you care this much about permissions? The absolute number one reason is all about limiting the blast radius. Think about it. If an attacker gets a password, the amount of damage they can cause is directly tied to the permissions that account has. If the account can only read one file, that's the damage. If it's a subscription owner, well, game over. CIEM turns what could be a company-ending catastrophe into a containable minor incident. Next up, this is a non-negotiable part of any real zero trust strategy. You've heard the zero trust mantra, right? Never trust, always verify. Well, CIEM is what applies that motto after someone logs in. It's the always verify what they're trying to do part of the equation. Even if we know who you are, we're not just going to trust you with wide open access. And this last one might surprise you, because when you do this right, security stops being the Department of No and actually becomes a business enabler. When you have these strong automated guardrails in place, you can actually tell your dev teams, go ahead, innovate, move fast, we've got your back. You know that any mistakes, any excessive permissions will be caught automatically. It gives them freedom to build. All right. Hopefully by now you're seeing the power here. So the natural question is, where do I even begin? Let's wrap up with a game plan that you can take back to your team. Okay, here's your checklist, your game plan. Ready? Step 1. You can't protect what you can't see. Get total visibility across every cloud. Then don't try to boil the ocean. Go after the biggest risks first. Your super admins, your high privileged service accounts. Start proactively trimming permissions based on what people actually use. For those super powerful roles, use just-in-time access, not permanent privilege. Lock down key accounts with MFA. Get rid of all that dead weight, the orphaned and unused accounts. And finally, shift left. Build these checks right into your DevOps pipeline so you're preventing messes, not just cleaning them up. And that brings us right back to where we started. Your cloud is alive, it's breathing. Permissions are changing every single minute. So I'll leave you with this one thought. Do you actually know who has the keys to your kingdom right now? With a solid KIM strategy, you finally can.